Alright, so I thought I'd talk about the games I'm currently playing. So let's start off with the oldest, going to the newest. Here we have Gran Turismo on the PlayStation. So I've had a lot of fun playing Gran Turismo 3 and Gran Turismo 4 back in the day. I've not actually played them for several years now, but I do want to play them again. And I really like those games, but I've never played the early Gran Turismos. And a few weeks ago I thought it would be really cool to play the first one, to play the first one for the first time all these years later in 2021. And I was thinking, I may not like it that much. It might just seem very basic and primitive and clunky with way less features, in comparison to Gran Turismo 3 and 4. But I was very surprised that playing this game, it feels like I could be playing Gran Turismo 3 or 4. It feels the same, except the graphics are more blocky. Now I could be wrong because I've not played that many PlayStation 1 games, but this game just seems to have so much depth for a PlayStation 1 game. And yeah, I'm enjoying it a lot. It's interesting, like seeing all the old 90s cars in it, because this came out in 1997 or 1998. So the majority of the cars in this are 90s cars. Next up is Resident Evil. Kind of the same story with Gran Turismo. I played Resident Evil 2 back in the day on the Dreamcast. Absolutely love that. It's one of my all-time favourite games. I've played newer Resident Evils, some of which I've really enjoyed. And again, I thought, wouldn't it be really cool to go to the first one and play that? I love 2D backgrounds in games. That was one of the things that I really loved about Resident Evil 2, and this has like 2D static backgrounds as well. And I thought, something, I think if I really enjoyed Resident Evil 2, I think I'll probably really enjoy this. So my friend actually ended up buying me this last Christmas, and yeah, really good game. But I'm finding it really difficult. Resident Evil games, they're classed as survival horror games, and in this, a lot of the time, I'm just desperately just trying to survive. A lot of the time I'll have barely any ammo left or no ammo at all. I won't have any like green herbs to replenish my health. My health might be quite low, and it could be a very long time before I find another health pickup or some ammo. And some of the enemies in this are really difficult to fight, even if you do have weapons. So a lot of the time I'm just desperately just trying to survive for as long as I can. And now I'm pretty much stuck after beating Plant 42. Some hunters arrive at the mansion, and so that's where I'm at with this, and I'm just finding it really difficult to get any further. The Getaway on the PlayStation 2. So this is a game kind of like the Grand Theft Auto games, only you're in London. And the real impressive thing about this game is that it actually uses the map of London. A lot of the buildings in London were actually photographed, and then those photographs were put into the game. So all the buildings that you see in the game are buildings in real life. This game came out in 2002, I think, so it's really interesting playing this game, driving or walking around like a real representation of London in the early 2000s. It's really interesting seeing the old shops, which aren't around anymore, seeing old advertisements, all the old cars and stuff. So I do like the game, but the game just feels like driving, and when you're on foot, it feels very clunky. And the camera is just absolutely terrible. Now, I know it's an old game, some people will say, well, of course it's going to be clunky, it's an old game. But to be honest, most PlayStation 2 games that I played don't really feel clunky to me at all. Maybe it's because I just don't play modern games, I don't have a modern console. And I'm really sure when I played this back in the day, like I think it was around 2003, it felt very clunky back then. For a PlayStation 2 game, it is very clunky, and the camera is just terrible. But I'm still able to enjoy this game quite a lot. Oops. Next up is Pacman World on the Gameboy Advance. At first I didn't like this because the platforming feels really awkward. I hated those like wooden doors that would swing open and you'd have to try and land on them, and then they'd close again, so you'd have to kind of you know, you really had to get the timing right, and it just seemed, it was like I think it's like the first environment that you're in, and it just seemed very difficult for like the first level or first world or whatever that you're in. And then sometimes I'd be on a platform and I'd try and jump onto another platform, and I'll be thinking, okay, it should land in the middle of that next platform, but instead it would just jump right past it and then just fall to his death. So it was just very awkward, and I didn't like it that much. But now that I've got further in the game, I'm actually enjoying it quite a lot. I'm not really encountering those problems that I've mentioned anymore. And then lastly, once again, we have gravity. So I've already shown this game in one of these kinds of videos before, so I'm not really going to go into it much, but basically you basically just use physics and objects, and you have to like set the objects up in such a way that something will end up moving and hitting a red button. So yeah, that is pretty much it. Thanks for watching.